Sheriff Joe, thank you so much for being with us. America's toughest sheriff. God bless you, man.
Well, thank you. After I finish you, I'm going to the tents. You know, I put tents up August 3, 1993.
Yeah.
20-year anniversary. It's 120 degrees out in Phoenix, plus maybe 150 in the tents. So I'm go see all my inmates and give them a little ice cream.
Yeah, well, listen, tell them hello for us. And I'm just looking, Sheriff Joe, I'm just looking at the headlines of Drudge right now, and it says Freak Heat, Phoenix, and of course that's you, Maricopa County, set for 119, so you're saying it's every bit of that right now, and with the heat index closer to 150 in some of those tents.
Yeah, you know, our men and women are living in tents. Foreign countries, you know, so why can't my inmates live in the hot tents?
I got
They've
you.
been convicted of crime, so I've been doing it for 20 years.
I got you. I understand, and we appreciate everything about what you're doing out there. And by the way, I want to congratulate you on the defeat of this recall effort that just recently thrust upon you. But we were really excited to get that news. I know not nearly as excited as you were, but we celebrated it right here on Freedom Friday that day.
Well, thank you very much. I just got reelected for my sixth time.
I know.
And then 3 weeks later, they try to recall me, especially those that don't like how I enforce the illegal immigration laws. So it was a little tough. I had a rough 3 months. I broke my arm in 3 places. I had a guy send me a live bomb.
Right, I remember that.
And I had this recall, so it's been a tough 3-4 months into my sixth term. But that's okay. Everything's turned out.
I know. And the sixth term, now that's unprecedented for Maricopa County, is it not? Isn't that the first in Maricopa's history?
Yeah, I guess it is, but let me just say this. This is my second career.
I know.
I spent 30 years as a Washington, D.C. cop, Vegas cop, and 28 years with the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration as the regional director of Mexico, South America, Turkey. I can go on and on.
Right.
And I joined the Army the day the Korean War broke out, so if you have a calculator, you can say that I'm not a young guy anymore.
Right. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that calculation right now. I know what your age is, but you don't look your age, nor do you act your age, and the Lord has blessed you and given you a lot of strength and zeal, and I pray you get through this term wonderfully well. And perhaps you can run again if you're up to it.
I'll run it again. I just raised $2 million for my next election, which is 2016. So for all those critics that want me out, no way they're going to get me out.
I heard that.
Thinking of being 81 years old, I'm going to drop dead or something.
Probably not, though, Sheriff Joe. Man, that's powerful. That's powerful. Well, listen, I know our folks. You've got a lot of fans here along the Gulf Coast, and then of course we have a large national audience as well. And you've got. I'm just going to say, I believe that there are millions of people across this nation that are just patiently waiting, supporting you, Mike Zullo, the cold case posse work. But they're pretty much helpless. They cannot push this issue. They cannot force this issue. They cannot bring this issue to a conclusion. And they believe and know that really you and Zullo and whoever you can enlist at the congressional level and court level, you guys are the only ones that can bring this issue of the Obama fraud document to some type of legal conclusion. And so I'm telling you, Sheriff Joe, there are millions of people. They may be kind of quiet, but they're following this, and they're watching this, and they're praying for you guys, and their fingers are crossed, and all the other good luck dances that they can do, because they understand, as I believe I understand, how powerfully important this is to the constitutional republic in which we live. So tell us just a little bit about this 21-month criminal investigation of the Obama document fraud. I mean, when this was all first brought to you, you were kind of skeptical. I mean, you thought certainly that the document that the president presented could not be a forgery or a fraud. Isn't that correct?
Well, by the way, if there's millions of people out there, I wish they would come out and start talking about this and let the media and everybody else know that's how you get things done through politicians. I don't see any politicians helping me, but nobody wants to touch this. The media, I never seen a cover-up like this, and I knew the Watergate characters. I've been around a long time.
I know.
And I never seen anything like this. But I'll tell you, the Tea Party, about 250 came to my office. Not all of them. They had petitions. And they asked me as a sheriff to look into it. Now, what do you do when you're the sheriff and the constituents come to you and say, Sheriff, we want you to look into this. We have evidence. So I had to make a big decision. Do I throw it in the wastebasket like everybody else does?
Right.
Or do I look into it? I decided to look into it. But I had to give myself a little credit because I knew they really would go after me if I used taxpayers' money. So I have 3,500 volunteers called the posse. They have authority once I swear them in.
Right.
I have a cold case posse. So you know what? Mike Zullo was head of that cold case posse, so I mobilized him to do this.
Right.
So they can't get me for spending taxpayers' money, although I could.
Right.
But so I got by with that one. And when we had our first press conference, all I said is, Mr. President, show me your birth certificate, your microfiche, because this has been in the news prior before me looking into it.
Yes.
And that's all I wanted. I wanted to clear him of this. But it didn't happen. So we did an investigation. It's been almost 21 months. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt that it's a fake forged birth certificate. I mean, you don't invite a government. I mean, if that was you with a fake document, you'd be in jail tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
How do you get this done? I mean, we got a potential criminal violation here. And we're still working it.
Well, Sheriff, you know what you got to do is take it to Eric Holder. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, I mean,
that's what you're supposed to do.
Me in court.
Yeah, I know.
So maybe we'll, you know, he does my thing and I'll do his. But,
I know.
But you know, that's a little difficult right now because you know where it's going to go.
Yeah,
Congress is the best place. I've been trying to get it to Congress, but nobody wants to talk to me. No senators or anybody else. I can't believe this. We got a guy, Steve Stockman in Texas, that's expressed an interest, so maybe Mike Zullo and him can get together and do something with this.
Right. And speaking of Mike Zullo and Stockman and everything else you just said about the investigation, now explain to people, because I know there have been a lot of questions about this, not so much on my show or from folks that listen to me, but around the nation. I've been on blogs and on Facebook and YouTube and various places where these people talk, and there have been some questions about what authority does Zullo have in this. But explain to the people how Zullo's authority derives from you and how Zullo is a legitimate law enforcement officer, and so you are the one who authorizes him to speak at the Constitutional Sheriff's Association, for example. You're the one that authorizes him to go sit down with Congress people and expose this criminal investigation to them. So he has that full authority from you. Am I right? Explain that to the folks.
Well, once again, I mentioned the posse. Under the Constitution, I, the sheriff, can swear in private citizens and give them authority when I mobilize them. I do that all the time. We go after deadbeat parents and dope peddlers and everything else. I have 500 posse men and women who carry guns. Right. So I have that authority. They operate under my authority. They are covered by the county for any liability. The only difference is they don't get paid.
Right.
They furnish their own airplanes and everything else.
Right, right. But Mike Zullo, of course, has a law enforcement background, and he is the lead investigator duly authorized under your authority for this cold case posse and this Obama fraud case, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So when he spoke at the National Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association conference out in St. Charles, I mean, that was under your authority, correct?
Yes. I usually show up every year to talk before that group. I didn't do it this time because I got a broken arm in 3 places. But he was nice enough to go there and to discuss what he could discuss, this criminal investigation, which we had gone public twice.
Right.
And yet the media don't even want to look at the evidence. All they want to do is blast me and Zullo We're trying to do our job. So it becomes frustrated sometimes.
Right. I know. And in a moment, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you some detailed questions about that. But before we go to the break, Sheriff, of course, I've been up on this from the beginning. In fact, I was involved in reporting this and investigating this before those guys ever petitioned you. Now, of course, you guys immersed yourself in a full-scale criminal investigation, and I've only been made privy to that, in the last year. But I watched the first press conference. I watched the second press conference. I've kept up with all the work you're doing. And I guess the thing that blew me away, and I could tell that it blew you away too. I mean, I could tell it caught you off guard. It caught me off guard. It caught everyone off guard. The few press people that were there, at the end of it, after you present this magnificent piece of criminal work that was courtroom ready, and you present it, I think it's for an hour, hour and a half to the press, the idiotic questions they asked. I mean, they were asking you questions like, well, what authority do you have to investigate our president? I just about fell out of my chair.
Actually, we're not really investigating the president. In fact, the president should thank me, because we're trying to clear up a fake document, his birth certificate.
Right, with his name on it.
Thank you, Sheriff. Catch these guys. Right. But no, that's never going to happen. No, I'm not going to get any thanks or invited to the White House.
No, and I think I know why. And you said in that very first press conference, you said all of this will go away if Obama and or his attorneys, whoever, his representatives, would just turn over legitimate, verifiable microfilm documents. It will all go away. Here we are 5 years down the road, and no one has turned over anything verifiable to you, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Well, folks, listen, you are listening to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups. Sheriff Joe Arpaio is our special guest this afternoon. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, more with Sheriff Joe. You don't want to go away. You don't want to miss this. And I'm going to ask him some questions concerning some new evidence that has recently come their way and what their plans are for moving this thing forward, and particularly the connection to Congressman Steve Stockman. We'll deal with all of that as soon as we come back on the other side of the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, America. It is Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, Mallory Bardwell, your world-famous producer, and Sheriff Joe Arpaio, our guest this afternoon. Sheriff Joe, let's just jump right back into this. We've only got 6 or 7, 8 minutes left. I want you to have as much time as possible. For our audience, isn't it true that new evidence, new information continues to come in to you and to Mike Zullo concerning this Obama fraud document case? I mean, just recently, it's my understanding. I know you can't give us the details, but you got some pretty powerful information that came your way. Isn't this so?
Well, I think one important situation, Trump and everybody's talking about this. This is the first law enforcement agency that ever looked into this situation. And, document examiners are very important. We've had others, but now we picked up one this court recognized, so I think you got to take his word that this is a phony document, and we got so much evidence. But we're still doing it. We haven't given up. And what am I supposed to do? Here's a law enforcement official that has information about a criminal offense. If I throw in the wastebasket, well, I'm covering up. If I give it to somebody and nobody wants it, I got a problem.
Yeah.
So we'll get through it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. Political-wise, there isn't a consultant in the whole country that would ever advise the candidates to take this on. No one. And I just ran for office my 6th term, and this came up. They tried to go after me on this issue, immigration, you name it. I survived. But so it's a political problem, too, here. It's more political than anything else, I would say, right now, because nobody wants to touch it. And I remember the very first press conference, you let the mainstream media know that you were going to be revealing this, and you also made it clear up front when you started the investigation that you were trying to clear the president, and that That's
you
right.
were, and I do remember that mainstream media was panting, waiting for you to clear the president, and when you guys got up there with that hour-long presentation that basically condemned that document and everybody surrounding the president, I remember the media just immediately started shutting you guys down because you didn't possess the message they wanted to hear.
No, the big boys, too, in Washington TV, they don't want to touch this. I think they got instructions not to touch it. But you know what? This is a great country. And I still think justice will prevail. and we'll see what happens. But I'm in a box.
Yeah.
But I haven't given up. I'll tell you that much. I've got 50 years of law enforcement, 30 with the U.S. Justice Department, the government, all over the world, so I think I know how the government operates.
Right. No, you do, and that's why I say, Sheriff, you are the one that millions of people are looking to, and I'm not just trying to blow smoke in the ear when I say this. I've said this to Mike Zullo before on air. I mean, when this thing is over, sometime, and you guys are going to be national heroes, and I mean that because you are going to. The truth is going to come out. You guys have done the hard work. You have been put in the box. You've been put between the rock and the hard place. But truth is going to prevail, and you guys are right. You guys are dead on this, and somebody eventually is going to hear it, and it's going to be exposed, and then you will be vindicated. But God bless you for the work you're doing. Let me ask you now, you have authorized Mike Zullo, the lead investigator, you have authorized him to speak with Steve Stockman, Congressman Stockman from Texas, who, it's my understanding, has asked for a meeting with Zullo, probably in Washington, D.C., to disclose the entire criminal investigation to this congressman. Is that correct?
Yeah, I hope the congressman from Texas, which I supported Perry when he ran for president. I campaigned and rode with him. Texas is a great state. I was head of the federal drug enforcement there. So I do have a soft spot for Texas, and I hope this congressman from Texas does something about this to open the door for us.
Right.
They worry about how much food you spend in Vegas or the hookers in Colombia and all this. Yeah. They have hearings for everything. Why don't they have a hearing for this?
Yeah. Well, they had one for John McCain. I mean, the Senate had hearings on John McCain's place of birth and parents.
That didn't go anywhere.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that they had it.
McCain already didn't speak highly of me in my last election for taking this on.
But
nobody does anyway. But I don't care.
Yeah, the point I'm making though is that your statement is accurate. That is, they have hearings for everything. They even had a hearing on John McCain's whether or not he was certified and qualified. But they will not touch this. And you are holding a 21-month criminal investigation in your hands, 100% hands-down evidence that the document, the only identifying document ever proffered by this administration, is absolutely 100% a fake, a forgery, a fraud. Is that correct?
And it was circulated around the world by the White House.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it went out. We didn't force it to go out. Anybody can read it. It was out there.
Yeah.
So you figure this one out. I'm a little confused. Only by the lack of interest by every politician and media. I've never seen anything. They went after Nixon with a tape recorder. Look at it for missing tape.
Right.
Look at this thing.
Yeah. Well, it's just Bill Clinton. I mean, for a blue stained dress. I mean, they went after him. So I know. Well, listen. So you mentioned, and we've only got about a minute, but you mentioned a moment ago about this 40-page report issued by a document examiner who is certified to testify in basically every court in the land. And you guys are in possession of that report. And I understand. I know you can't give it away because we're waiting for a criminal case or a congressional hearing. But I understand that 40-page report is absolutely condemning, and it's just 100% evidence that the document proffered by the White House is a forgery. Is that right?
Mike Zullo is a very honest, ethical, loyal person and has experience. So he read that. I haven't read it myself, but I take his word for it.
Right.
I keep in touch with Mike. I'm the only one. We keep this kind of confidential.
Right.
He and I. But I know what's going on. I haven't read it. I get tons of material across my desk, and I usually give it to Mike to my help in doing the investigation.
Right. Well, Sheriff Joe, we are out of time. I thank you so much for coming on, and I'm sure in the months and maybe a year or two ahead, we'll have you back on as this thing continues to unfold. But I appreciate. I'm going to speak on behalf of our audience and people from around the nation and around the world who are following this. We appreciate you staying on top of it. You're our last hope. You and Mike Zullo, Cold Case Posse, God bless you for what you're doing. I'm excited about some things in the woodwork coming down the road that we know about, and thank you for staying on top of it.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
All right, go down to Tent City and take care of those guys in 150-degree tents.
I'll be with the inmates.
I know you will.
Safe down there.
God bless you, Sheriff Joe.
Yes, thank you.
Folks, you are listening to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups. That was Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Maricopa County, on top of the Obama fraud case.